I would have made a gaming pickups video that would have been kind of short back in March where I just showed off 6 N64 games. But I know you guys probably want more than that. Well, I certainly want more than that. So, yes, as I've mentioned many times before, I am trying to get all 388 Nintendo 64 games. A true complete collection. Not just the 296 North American games. I'm talking about fucking everything. So let's start. Here we have Jikyu J-League Perfect Striker. In the box, too. This is an extremely common and worthless game. I feel like maybe they printed more copies than they would have, or maybe people back in the day probably bought more copies than they thought they would have needed. This was the first soccer game on the N64, released in 1996, and it bears a pretty obvious resemblance to the International Superstar Soccer games, though this version in particular is actually exclusive, whereas Jikyu J-League Perfect Striker 2 was brought over as International Superstar Soccer 2000. So yeah, this is actually an exclusive one, despite it being not looking like that. It's not just the Japanese version of an already released ISS game here. And, well, like ISS, it's pretty damn good. I don't really have much to say about it, other than it's a really good, fast, paced, soccer game. I don't really know what much else to say about it. There's the cartridge. I don't think the game's manual is actually uploaded. Like a lot of Japanese N64 manuals are probably missing scans, so who knows, maybe I might scan it. I actually have the manual in here too, so that's pretty cool. Here's one that's actually pretty cool, and I imagine if for like the 3 people that have heard of this, probably know about it less in the sense that you're probably not gonna find this game. Here we have Pachinko 365 Nichi, meaning like 365 days, you fucking play Pachinko every day of the goddamn year. So this is one of 3 Pachinko games on the Nintendo 64, the others being Heiwa Pachinko World 64 and Parlor Pro 64. Out of all 3, I could not tell you what is the best one, though I guess this is definitely better than Heiwa Pachinko World 64. So then, what do I have to say about this game? Well, I looked for many months, and I still kind of look now, and I could never find a copy of this game for sale. Not just on eBay, but any other site that would sell retro games or imports or anything like that. There's hardly even pictures of this game, the game's fucking cartridge, online. So, yeah. Now, I don't know if this is because this game is either extremely rare, or maybe it's just a stroke of, something being like thrown into the realm of obscurity. But in the case of this, because it's a Nintendo 64 game, and because of the fact that, Nintendo 64 games can be easily cataloged and found, I don't see why this would fall into that case. I could understand, like, I'm sure there's plenty of games like this on, say, the Super Famicom, and especially the PlayStation 1, that have fallen into obscurity, and you're most likely not be able to find them on eBay. But in the case of this is the N64. You can find any game for the console on eBay at any given moment in time, except this one. So I just got lucky. I finally found a copy back in February. It was a bidding auction, so that definitely put some pressure on it. But I won it because, who the fuck cares about this game except for somebody like myself? Because the game itself, it's Pachinko. It runs at a really fucking slow frame rate when you're in, like, the Pachinko parlors. Like, not even, like, the standard 20 or 30 frames per second. It's like an unfinished sort of frame rate, though at least it looks more finished than Heiwa Pachinko World 64. And also this cartridge art. What is up with this? Is this supposed to be like a fucking circus with, like, the stripes? I don't know. So, yeah, this will definitely go down in history for being an infamous sort of footnote in N64 collecting and just N64 history in general. And what's even more interesting is that the very next N64 game released after this game was Banjo-Kazooie. So, yeah, how about that? Triple Play 2000. It's baseball, and it's also a case where, EA was very selective and odd about what games they put out for the console, because there's this, where's Triple Play 99, or Triple Play 98. But yeah, it's baseball. I think there are probably better baseball games on the system, but also probably worse ones. It's playable enough, Yeah, it's America's pastime on a fucking Nintendo 64 cartridge. No shortage of baseball games on the console. Next up, we got Hot Wheels Turbo Racing. This game is something I've had my eyes on for a while because it actually looked like a really good racing game. And it is a really good racing game. It was developed by Stormfront Studios, the same people who made NASCAR 99 and NASCAR 2000 for the N64. So thankfully, this is way the fuck better. You can win races by, like pulling off stunts, just winning a regular race or defeating all your opponents, and it's just fun. It's just fun pulling off, stunts and like backflips on ramps all the time, using your boost and whatnot. It can seem a little easy at times, but it's pretty damn good. Almost a hidden gem, I want to say, though of course this game is also on the PS1, and it's worth a look at. It might be worth looking at other Hot Wheels games. I mean, Hot Wheels, they're a cool toy, but for me personally, Hot Wheels just kind of fell under the realm or under the title like, oh, it's a really cool toy, but it involves like months or years of, collecting all kinds of shit and like ungodly amounts of money potentially to get something really awesome. And I'm already doing that with games, so I kind of had like a Hot Wheels set or two, and that was it. And of course I played a lot of Hot Wheels Stunt Track Driver on the PC, and that was a pretty cool game. But in any case, really cool to have, though unfortunately it's only 2-player. Fucking Lord Jesus, how many times am I going to be saying this? It's like a broken record. But at least it's not a severe lack of courses. There's like 8, though there could have been like 10. But in any case, pretty good stuff. Definitely a standout racing game for the N64. Worth playing. Okay, let me move this. Mario Golf. Of course I was going to get this. It's a Mario game. I won't say no to a Mario game, pretty much. Gotta get them all, to some extent. Yeah, as much as I can, basically. I bought this first on the Wii Virtual Console many years ago, and I played it, and I was like, this is cool, but I want to play more Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. And, while Mario Golf Toadstool Tour is the better game, after sitting down and playing it now, it's about just as good as any, good golf game, and especially any good Mario Golf game, No real complaints here. And in fact, another thing to this game's credit is that although it's like other Mario sport games at the time, it locks Mario and Luigi. Well, I don't know about Luigi, but it definitely locks Mario behind, a fucking criteria. And in the case of this game, it doesn't seem like it would be too tedious to unlock them. You don't have to go through some RPG mode that I honestly could not care about. Where you play as like fucking all these human characters that every Mario fan is glad is now dead and will never return to the franchise. So, yeah, but the good news for me, everything's already unlocked here, and I believe there's also a code to unlock everything, so you know what? That's good, because when I play this game from now on, I just want to sit down and enjoy a nice round of 18 holes of golf. But that's just me. Very good game, and fucking, yeah, Mario and Luigi say some very blunt and odd things when they, get like, birdies or, bogeys or, stuff like that, eagles, chip-ins, you know what I mean, those kind of reactions. Okay, here we have Madden 99, and well, all I can say about this one is I wonder if there was anyone back in the day who ever bought Madden Football 64 and was like, oh, well, this is kind of unremarkable. Hopefully this will be a much better game to really push the fucking powers of the Nintendo 64. Is it? Well, I'd like to think maybe every Madden got slowly better. I mean, is Madden 99 on, say, the PC and the PlayStation all that much better? Is Madden 99 in of itself, regardless of what version, a good game? I couldn't tell you. Alright, the next game I definitely have the most to say about. This is Winback Covert Operations. This is a very special sort of standout game in the sense that, well, it's, another game that could have potentially just been easily made on the PlayStation 1. Like, some of these games I show you, like Madden 99 or Triple Play 2000, a lot of the EA Sports games, some racing games, okay, fine. That's more so like the developers like, alright, we'll make a version or two. The N64 has somewhat of a large, fan base and whatnot. The PlayStation 1 has a much larger one, but, we'll put a Nintendo 64 version. This, along with, a couple other games, is one example of a company trying to make an exclusive game, an exclusive game adventure, with a story to tell, characters to, see and whatnot. And this is a third-person shooter, credited for being the first of its kind to introduce a cover system. Though let me tell you, you're probably not going to get nearly as much use out of that cover system as you think you would, or should, rather. Because, I'll say this, Winback is a really good game. I've never been into third-person shooters or first-person shooters. I never said no to them, but it's like I'm kind of to them. It's like if I'm gonna play a first-person shooter or a third-person shooter, it has to be something, you know, I can just sit down and, you know, play, like beat a level, shoot some bad guys, avoid, you know, them and whatnot, not be too mission-based or whatnot. And this is like that for the most part. It has some puzzle elements where it's like, oh, just find a way to get rid of a laser barrier and move on. And, you know, it's got a story. It's a decent story at that. Like, it was well entertaining enough. I got a kick out of the cutscenes. There's no voice acting in them, but whatever. You know, you play as good old Jean-Luc Cougar, you know? And, hey, of course, it's interesting because, well, of course, yes, many people compare this game to Metal Gear Solid. It even says on the back of the box, the closest thing you will get to Metal Gear Solid on the Nintendo 64. Well, not that exact quote, but it basically says something like that. And, well, kinda, but of course Metal Gear Solid was very stealthy and had guns and weapons for when you had to do it, whereas this is just flat out, you know, shoot the bad guys, but of course duck and cover. Now, getting back to what I was saying earlier, why wouldn't you get much use out of this game's cover system? Well, not saying you wouldn't, but here's the thing. In order to get the good ending in this game, you have to either beat or reach the end of stage 27 in the game. There are 31 stages in total, but you have to reach stage 27 before 3 hours. If you take any longer than that, you're going to get the bad ending, or at least another ending. I keep on hearing people say, oh, there's 2 or 3 endings, but my point is, if you take longer than 3 hours, you're not getting the good ending. And, well, that's kind of problematic, because this is a decently long game. It's not short or anything. The length is perfect, though it's artificially extended. And I'm going to say this, because in order to get the good ending, in order to beat the stage faster, and to reach the fucking stage 27, you're going to have to do some things that just seem really stupid and, you know, risky in order to go fast. You have to, like, skip all kinds of enemies. You have to, like, you know, just run past them. Even if you take hits, it's probably better just to keep going and hope to God there's either a checkpoint or a health box, or it's even better the end of the stage. And this is problematic because while doing this, of course you're going to fucking die over and over and over again. Now, of course, generally, you're going to die because, you know, the enemies will probably get the better of you, but when you're doing risky stuff like that just to get the good ending of the game, that's artificially extending the length of the game. There have been many cases, because, okay, for one thing, I beat this game completely. I got the good ending, all that said and done. But there were lots of cases where I ended up having to redo stages and finding ways to do them slightly faster, all while still dying over and over. So it felt like I was playing the stage fucking more times than I should have. In fact, when I first started this game, I got to like the 8th stage, you know, in a time of 1 hour and 45 minutes. And I'm like, okay, there's no way in hell I'm going to get the good ending. So you know what? We're going to restart and we're going to do this way the fuck faster. And I just kind of barely got it. I mean, I got lost in like stage 25 and 26, but it's like, that really just, you know, hinders this game. I mean, it's still a really good game and an enjoyable one and a well-made one, but I really think that whole good ending stuff beat the fucking, like, you know, 95% of the game within 3 hours in a game that doesn't want you to rush. It just seems kind of like a dumb, you know, dumb game design, really. It does. I don't know how else to put it. And it really made this game, you know, felt twice as long than it should, because all in all it took like close to 4 hours to beat this, though I'm pretty sure it was more than that, like probably almost 10 hours or so, you know, given the fucking situation at hand. So while it's a good game and I enjoyed it, I'm just glad it's over, because fucking hell, that's a dumb decision. But it's still a worthwhile game. It was also remade on the PS2, you know, that had more checkpoints and some pretty god-awful voice acting, so I don't know. There's also a sequel that called Winback 2 Project Poseidon that isn't even related to this game's story at all, so yeah. But in any case, it's still a pretty cool game, definitely a standout adventure for the Nintendo 64. Okay, let's talk about some NES games. Here we have Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge. Why do they call it that? I don't know. You're not driving a fucking Ferrari. It's clearly an F1 car, and well, unless it's like a Ferrari-sponsored F1 car, I don't know what the hell's up with that, or maybe they just didn't get the license for F1 in North America. And interestingly enough, the Famicom version of this game is just called Ferrari. This was another kind of like late release for the NES. It came out in 1992. It's one of the few NES games that I have actually released that late. But unlike late NES releases, this is not an uncommon or rare game at all. You can find it relatively easy. And, you know, I've been kind of looking for this because it's like, you know, I have a lot of racing games, but I don't have a lot of 8-bit or 16-bit racing games. And this game sort of struck my interest. I remember seeing it briefly in Norman Caruso, aka the Gaming Historian's review of Pat the NES Punk's book, you know, Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES Library. Isn't that very specific on how I found out about this game? Well, yeah. The game itself, well, it's got some pretty good music, and it's a decent racing game overall. I wouldn't say it's like an oh my god, you know, huge surprise, most fun freaking thing ever. You know, for one thing, I think it's kind of annoying when, you know, there's another driver on a curve and you're trying to get past him, or even trying to get past the curve in general. You're going to have to, like, slow down and potentially, you know, get screwed over by racers behind, you know, but, not a bad game at all. Surprisingly decent, and hey, the music really livens up this from just being another droning, you know, 8-bit racer with a droning, you know, frickin' machine sound. So, you know what? It might be worth getting. Not a bad game at all. These next 3 games were given to me by my friend Fabio. The thing is, I actually bought him Hot Shots Golf 4 on the PlayStation 2 in exchange for these games. Now, I want to get Hot Shots Golf 4 myself, but that'll have to wait a little later. So what did I get? Well, Top Players Tennis. You may remember that I actually talked about unboxing this game in my 3-part series, Unboxing Random NES Game Series. And, well, this game kind of mystified me, because it's like, you know, I found out about it like, oh, cool, yeah, another tennis game on the NES. Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's got 4 players, and, you know, a name Top Players Tennis? This is probably actually a pretty good game. And it even mystified me even more, because there weren't many gameplay videos of this on YouTube. Which, I mean, there's of course a gameplay video for every NES game, multiple gameplay videos for every NES game in fact, but this one, not a ton of them, at least not at the time. So I was like, you know what, let's see what this game's all about. It's not a very good game. In fact, it's kind of bad actually. The tennis physics and gameplay overall is extremely sluggish and clunky and, you know, not very good. And while yes, I did better in my revisit to it now compared to 2015 or 2016, I still don't think particularly very highly of this game. And as it stands, it's neat to have another tennis game on the NES and another 4-player game on the NES. But all in all, not a very good game. Bondi Golf Challenge Pebble Beach. I've been really thinking about trying to get all the golf games on the NES. At this point, I just need Golf Grand Slam, Greg Norman's Golf Power, and Jack Nicklaus's Greatest 18 Holes of Major Championship Golf. As for this, well, it's Bondi Golf Challenge Pebble Beach, you know? Like fucking Pebble Beach golf links. This game I kind of had mixed opinions on when I first tried it, though recently I sat down and played an 18-hole round of this. I think there's just 18 holes, and it's a little better than I thought, though I'm not really a fan of the music. It sounds like from a fucking bootleg game in some ways, though it's has a little more melody than a bootleg game, but I think it's more so the instrumental. I don't know. But you know what? It's okay. It's an okay game, though I'd much rather play Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf, and especially NES Open Tournament Golf when it comes to NES golf games. And lastly, we have Town and Country Surf Designs, Wood and Water Rage, or just for short, TNC Surf Designs. And yes, another LJN published game, though this one's known for being one that's not too bad. I mean, well, yes, LJN isn't Phoenix Games, which Phoenix Games has automatically abandoned all fucking hope. This is, well, you got a surfing and a skateboard minigame, or both, even. The surfing minigame I don't understand, I can't get into. And it seems like whenever I do anything, it ends really quickly. You hold down left and right, and then it's over. So even if I did know how to truly play it, it doesn't seem like anything all that remarkable. Though the skating minigame, not too bad, actually. It's okay, though, honestly, I feel like you could do better on the NES with a lot of the cheap games on the console, though. I suppose it's okay, you know, I mean, hey, the sequel looks kind of rad. The sequel definitely looks like it had more time and effort put into it than this game. So, yeah. Okay, I'm going to talk about these real quick here. Here we have Trick Style on the Sega Dreamcast, a game that's, you know, at first initially I thought it was just a simple, like, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater stunt kind of game, But no, it's actually a flat-out racing game. There's probably a stunt mode in this, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but no, you race, you know, regular-ass races. There's only 2-player support. Why? Especially on the Dreamcast. But yeah, you race hoverboards almost in the vein of Sonic Riders, though unlike Sonic Riders, this isn't nearly as complicated. There's also an acceleration button. From what I've played, it's kind of cool. I do like the little boost feature and whatnot, and the acceleration, not too bad. You know, it gives you a more interesting sense of control for sure. And just the effort put into this, it seems like there was something going for this. In fact, a game store nearby me had like 4 copies of this game, all for $5. And while I was interested to begin with, I'm not really too much in a hurry to get many more Dreamcast games. But I was like, well, I haven't bought a Dreamcast game in a year, so you know what? This is a decent one to get. And it is, so I'll definitely look forward to playing this some more. Okay, I'm going to quickly talk about this one. Pilotwings Resort for the 3DS, you know, a game that it's kind of been on the mind for a while. You know, while I've kind of neglected the 3DS over all these years, I was like, I'll get games eventually. This one I'll get soon. Well, of course, getting things like Mario Party at the top 100 and a lot of Mario games coming out for the console. And as for this, while it seems a little more streamlined and, you know, not as much content, especially compared to Pilotwings 64, but it's interesting that it exists at all, that Nintendo revived a dead franchise for the time being, and how every Pilotwings game was a launch title. Because yes, this was a launch title for the 3DS. But it seems to be just about as enjoyable as any other, you know, Pilotwings game, except now you can play it on the 3DS and on the go. And you know what? Hey, it's good stuff. While I don't think I could ever necessarily beat a Pilotwings game, I can always sit down and enjoy them, fly through some rings, improve some levels, score some points, make some progress.